Have you seen Chuck Norris lately? He's still kicking butt and staying active well into his 80s. What's even more shocking is he looks more jacked than ever and seems to have more energy than guys half his age. And it's all thanks to Morning Kick, a revolutionary new daily drink from Roundhouse Provisions that combines ultra-potent greens like spirulina and kale with probiotics, prebiotics, collagen, and even ashwagandha. Just mix with water, stir, and enjoy. Unlike other green drinks out there, this one tastes exactly like strawberry lemonade and has hundreds of 5-star reviews. Go to roundhouseprovisions.com/save44 for up to 44% off your regular priced order. Plus, every purchase is backed by a 90-day money-back guarantee. So if you want to experience smoother digestion, a boost of energy, and just an overall healthier body, then go to roundhouseprovisions.com/save44 today. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Results can vary.
The following podcast may contain discussions supported by science that may be considered dangerous to some listeners and conspiracy theorists. Discretion is advised.
The 3 Down Greencast is brought to you by the Pile of Bones Brewing Company. Home delivery available in Regina at sassbeerdelivery.ca. Welcome to the 3 Down Greencast. You are listening to the internet's only Beer Mile expert podcast. I am Joel Gasson with John Fraser as usual, and we are already ahead of last week's bonus episode, as the second I hit record and we started doing this, the internet didn't crap out.
That's right. Okay, yes. We didn't.
Progress.
We haven't had we had some technical delays because my computer literally took half an hour to start up.
But we hadn't actually started doing anything yet, which was the positive.
Right. Unlike during the bonus episode with Sergio, where the computer crapped out, which, by the way, I'm glad I checked with the Bomber social media team, because I was about to buy my Sergio jersey this week, and they confirmed that the website's not correct, that he's not wearing number 41 just yet.
Okay.
So that is still coming.
Though there would be something charming of you having a Sergio Castillo jersey with the wrong number on it.
Well, people have already spoken on Twitter, and I do have to go with Sergio on the back, right?
Of course, yep.
Having that on the back and the wrong number, I feel like would be a little much. At least if I had Castillo and then the wrong number, I feel like I could get away with it. But just waiting on the Bombers and hoping that their social media team clearly has better working technology than we did last week after curling with my kids still awake.
I would hope they did, because they are a multi-million-dollar organization. We're 2 goofballs with a microphone and a laptop.
That's a barely functioning laptop. At least yours kind of works. Mine is just and mine was the annoying thing today too, because you're like, just load it up on your phone. It's not as good, but whatever. Okay, fantastic. Get the phone all loaded up. And then as I come back downstairs after grabbing a set of headphones, holy shit, the computer is just working. It's like it knows.
Yeah, it's trolling you. It's teasing you.
I know, which is fine. I'm okay with this. It's working. We're recording now. All is well.
For now, at least. So yeah, we of course are going to get into the Riders' big win over the Calgary Stampeders and how in basically a week's time, a lot can change about everything because of that win.
Right.
And we're going to talk a little bit as well about the news out of Ottawa this week, where, not surprisingly, GM Marcel Desjardins is out of work and looking forward to spending time with his wife.
And just like John Fraser, apparently he is burning bridges on his way out, and I love to see it.
Seems to be a theme in Ottawa the last number of years. Anyway, on this fine program, of course, you know that we love to celebrate athletic achievement. As yes, 2 guys with very little athletic achievement.
It's true. It's true. What the F side runners up at the Saskatoon men's Bonspiel,
which got us basically the same prize as the winners. So I mean, that was kind of the best part of it.
That's true. It really was. We almost got the exact same pizza gift card as the other guys.
So recently, over the weekend, there was every year there's the Beer Mile World Classic. This year it took place in Manchester, England. And once again, one of Canada's super athletes that probably very few people have ever heard of, Corey Bellemore, took home his third world title in a new record time of 4 minutes and 28 seconds and change.
Wow.
This is like the third or fourth time reading this article that he's basically shattered his own record.
Right.
When he first competed in 2016, he ran in 4 minutes and 39 seconds, which apparently shattered the previous record by about 12 seconds. So apparently people before this guy really sucked at this.
I was going to say, like,
at least comparatively,
he's actually gone into training himself.
Yeah, at least comparatively speaking, they sucked at this. I mean, it would take us like an hour to do the running part of this.
See, I don't know about me. You say that, Joel.
But after you've had a couple of beers, a few beers.
See, I am deceptively fast for a fat guy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it is. Maybe it's because I grew up and I wanted to be a sprinter, but you know, when you're 5 foot fuck all and like from like Northern Ontario, it doesn't really work. But like, people have actually been blown away. Like it started as a running joke where I got recruited to a slow pitch team. I'm like, no, I am deceptively fast for a fat guy. They're like, yeah, okay, you go play first base. And I literally lagged out an infield single, and they're like, holy shit, you are fast. Like, it is something I've hung my hat on for a lot of years. The problem is putting on the brakes, because I think like underneath all the beer and chicken wings, I might actually have explosive muscle tissue.
I'm glad you said muscle tissue.
Exactly. It gets that keg moving, and the keg is hard to stop, right? So
no, I can understand that, yeah.
I think I would actually, like, the mile's pretty long. I feel like I'd start strong, but I don't think I'd make an ass out of myself doing this.
I mean, I guess it depends
I'm not approaching any world records, but I feel like I could put up a respectable number.
Yeah, I mean, I never pretended to be fast, but I have decent speed for a big guy, but only for about the first 60 feet, because that's how far first base is in softball. Anything beyond that, I'm pretty much screwed.
That's what if we did the beer mile relay? Like, I do half a mile, you do half a mile. I feel like we'd be okay.
Maybe, who knows? Maybe we could recruit a couple others, and maybe we could be by the 4 by half mile relay against actual people doing the whole mile.
We both know that we just recruit 4 other people and we'd be coaches.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with that either, I suppose. So this brings up a very important question, John.
Yes.
I assume in the beer mile you're just drinking, they're probably just drinking whatever beers.
Right.
In the picture on the story I saw, he was drinking some kind of amber ale, so it looks like I approve of whatever he was drinking.
I also approve of that. Going for the amber ales rather than just like the conventional lagers, that's a good touch.
Yeah. So if you were to run the beer mile, and under the, let's say, different set of rules that I've just made up on the spot here.
Okay.
Because it's basically you drink a beer, run a quarter mile, drink a beer, run a quarter mile, up until you do 4 beers in a mile.
Right. So
under this new set of rules, you have to drink a different beer from a different brewery at every quarter mile mark.
Ooh, I like this. Okay.
So I guess they don't necessarily have to be local. Bonus points if they are. Bonus fake points because there's no points awarded. So if you had to pick the 4 beers that you were to drink during this race from 4 different breweries, what would they be?
Okay, I think I even have an order to these. I'm trying to think what would bat lead off, but I know like the number 3 would be a white IPA because I feel like I'd be through the first half mile and be like, oh God, I'm going to die. And then, oh no, my favorite beer of all time is just ahead of me. So the 3rd beer would be a white IPA. The 4th would be a Rebellion Lentil. Because I feel like by that point, after 3 beers, you'd be so bloated and burpy. And remember, the rules of this event are, if you puke, you're done. Mm-hmm. And again, I'm not generally a puker when it comes to beer, but running and the foam and everything, I feel like the lentil would be a nice, creamy way to kind of settle it. Now, the tricky part is, I feel like you'd have to start with just a basic beer. So I'm going to go back to Rebellion with beer, that tastes like beer.
4 different breweries, though. That was the rule.
Oh, right. KKK. Then let's go 9 miles golden ticket.
Okay. Yep.
So I've got the golden ticket. 3rd's the white IPA. Rebellion's lentil takes up the rear. And is it weird? I feel like I'd put a sour in there just to change it up so dramatically on the 2nd beer.
No, I don't think so. I think there's some legitimacy to that.
Yeah, I am thinking what's the one from High Key you brought to my house?
Yeah, it's got the one with the New Zealand hop in. I don't know how to pronounce it.
Exactly. It's like the Waikiki sour or something. So whatever that one is. So we're going to go the 9 Mile Golden Ticket, the high key one that neither of us can pronounce, but it's a really good sour. And I feel like a sour doesn't leave you as bloated either. Pile of Bones White IPA, finish off with a Rebellion Lentil. And I feel like I could keep it down. And I honestly think I could break 7 minutes. If the world record is 4, I feel like with those 4 beers, I could break 7 minutes.
This almost sounds like a challenge now.
I think it needs to be done.
Mm-hmm.
I think at the conclusion or before. Do we do it before or after? Maybe in Regina. We do before our live episode of the podcast that is inevitably going to happen. I feel like we need to set this up and make this happen. We need to figure out how far around Pile of Bones is and how many laps I'd have to run and time it. This is like 2 years in advance, but this episode's going to live on, and I'm with you. I want to take on this challenge, and I promise you I will not train for it.
I mean, I wouldn't have it any other way.
Of course, like I can't make this bold claim and then like not do it. Although you're going to be up for the Canadian curling trials. I almost feel like we could take a...
Do you want to do it in winter when the ground might be icy?
I feel like we could find a place to do it where the ground would be okay. And we could get like... Yeah, I there's something here, and you're going to be here with... staying at my house here in a few weeks. So I feel like, you know... I feel like there's something here, Joel. I feel like we can figure something out.
It's possible.
Right.
I guess for me...
yes, that was the next question.
If I were to pick 4 beers, I think I would start... And you kind of triggered me into thinking a little differently on this, and I just don't know if there's a way to get 4 out of my theory.
Okay. And what's that theory you've come up with since I've, you know...
Because you mentioned 9 Mile, and I remember and I didn't set a speculation. I didn't set a rule on can size.
Oh,
see, so you could go Nokomis, 9 Mile, and I'm trying to think of 2 others that come in like the 355 ml cans, so it's less beer.
Right. See, I was thinking they'd be normalized to 355. So like,
okay,
we'd have a lucky volunteer that could pour the tall cans into like a glass.
A plastic cup, probably, so we don't...
355 for world record purposes.
Yes.
And just finish the rest of the beer, right? So we have some brave volunteer come along that, like, pours it to 355, drinks the rest, and laughs at what we're doing.
Fair. Okay, fair enough. That works. So with that theory, then, I would kind of start with you, like a lighter beer. I think I'd start with the Nokomis Golden Ale.
Yep, okay. Good pick.
I think I'd want a bit of a pick-me-up.
Okay.
In round 2. No, maybe round 3 I think I want to pick me up. Round 2, kind of stay a little lighter, but maybe a little bit more oomph to it. I would probably go with the Rebellion Cerveza.
Oh, yes. I forgot about Cerveza, but I had the lentil cream in there already.
Yep.
Okay.
Curveball at number 3, Cold Brew Americano Stout for a little bit of coffee.
I feel like chugging the stout would just... Like, a stout is such a sipping beer, but, like, the chugging it would... Ugh.
I think there's something to it, but we'll see.
Oh, okay.
And then, gear down with... I would want to celebrate maybe a little bit for completing it. I would probably go with... Probably... the Blackbridge IPA. I've actually really been liking that a lot lately.
Oh, yeah. That's a good celebration. Now the funny thing is, I know there's enough guys in my fantasy football league that listen to this podcast that I feel like we'll arrange this to happen with those specific beers. So I feel like Travis or Jay will be the volunteer that drinks the little bit of the beer to get it to 355. And we actually have 2 former broadcasters and a current color guy in my league, so I feel like we could have a recording of this and just play it on the pod as they do play-by-play of each one of us going through it.
It's a possibility, yeah.
It's all coming together, Gas. I love it. We just need to find, like, we're both double vaccinated. We could, like, find a way to do this at the Saskatoon Fieldhouse. My buddy Cord works for the U of S, the Husky hockey team, so I feel like there's something here, and I almost think we need to, like, you might need to come up a day early for the trials to make this happen.
Yeah, I don't know if we'll be able to pull that off, for being perfectly honest.
That's fair. We still need to find a way to make this happen somehow.
Yeah, we'll figure it out in some degree at some point in time in history.
Okay, done.
So yeah, we're going to talk about the Riders' big win over Calgary, a little bit about Ottawa, and since we've already got us all kind of warmed up on this front, before we get into all that, as usual, John, for the Pile of Bones Brewing Company, what is in the glass this week?
Don't judge me too much. It's been a week. I had a commercial beer to start, which I am canceling it out with a little Lucky Bastard vodka, lemon, ice. As I was telling you, and as some people in the inner circle know, got the phone call on Friday that my son was having that Max, the oldest, was having his now thrice delayed tonsils and adenoid surgery today and putting in ear tubes. Like, it was just like, today was a day. And I feel like days like that, you go straight for the hard stuff. So I have a delicious Lucky Bastard vodka on ice, a little bit of water and a lemon in there, and that just, it makes the day's problems melt away and makes my takes always a little bit spicier.
And that's really what it's all about.
It's true. True. Spicy, terrible takes and feeling good. For me, I picked up a Blackbridge Mixer Pack for the weekend. And one I haven't really had in a while, and I forgot how pretty good it is. It's the Wheat Burst, which they describe as fruity, hoppy, unfiltered. So it's got a little bit of that sort of hoppy bite to it, but it's not officially an IPA. So it just strikes a nice balance of different things. Yeah, I find it's one of those, if you want to start dipping your toes into some of our hoppier recommendations, even like the white IPA. Yeah, I find it's like a less hoppy version of the white IPA. I love pouring it out. I love that hazy, unfiltered look to it in a nice tall glass. And yeah, Blackbridge, they're not a brewery, it seems like, that we give enough love to. But
no, that was part of my thought. That was part of my thought process as well. I'm like, I haven't had Blackbridge in a long time, and I don't think we've had them on the podcast in a long time. So I'm like,
no,
I'm gonna pick it up. And the 8-pack mixer pack is a really good value at its price point too, actually. So.
That's fair, except I always hate it because they got the 2 stouts in there. So, but although I find myself getting stoutier, so maybe tomorrow I'll go pick some up.
I'm slowly converting everyone around me to like everything.
Well, the NDP, NCAA football, stouts. Pretty soon it's just going to be, we're going into is this year 3 of the pod?
I don't even know.
I don't even know. It's been long enough that pretty soon we're just going to be the same guy repeating each other.
Some people might think we're already that, so.
That's whatever. We get consistent listenership, and Pile of Bones gives us beer, and that's all I give a shit about.
Yeah, I guess you can say all Rider fans gave a shit about on the weekend was they finally beat the Calgary Stampeders after a couple of tries, and 4 tries overall for the sort of current era of the team after some really unsuccessful games against the Calgary Stampeders. One where they didn't play too bad, one where they played really poorly, and they found a way this time. It wasn't the prettiest of games yet again, but they really found a way
dumb at the end.
It got a little dumb at the end. It was it was closer than it should have been at the end, and we can get into that a bit, but what a difference basically, well, I guess a week makes, because even a week ago after the, sort of in the middle of the bye week, I think there's a lot of people, there's a lot of talk about where this team was going and what was going to happen. And now, thanks to one win at the right time, they're back in the driver's seat for second place in the West.
In the driver's seat, but I still
not comfortably in control, but they are very much, I think, firmly in control of your own destiny range now, at least.
Well, yeah, you are, but I think that Calgary schedule, like looking ahead, and I alluded to it last week, like that Calgary schedule is just like they're like the ends, like the top 10 schools that like call in a poor Appalachian State or something like that for the next few weeks here. Like they're not really playing anybody tough here over their last 3 games. So the Riders are in the driver's seat, but they're still going to need to me, improve on what they did. And really go ahead and tighten some things up if they want to get second, because I don't see there's a way that Calgary doesn't go 3-0. Like they're
I mean, if they go 2.5, 3 quarters without scoring points again, that's the way they could lose games. I mean, Bo didn't look great again.
He didn't, but I mean, you've got Ottawa, BC, and then the Bombers in the last week, and I'm sure by that point the Bombers are resting. The Bombers might be resting everybody from here on out. We don't know what the hell's going to happen in Winnipeg, but there's a real good chance that Calgary wins their last 3 games. So Saskatchewan, that again points out how crucial that win was, because Calgary's, at least to me, getting the only way I see them dropping one is if Winnipeg decides to play their playoff roster in the last, basically gives the team the time off here the next 2 or 3, the next 2 games, and then, okay, let's try to ramp this back up. Let's get everybody back in there for the season finale against Calgary. Then maybe there's a 2-1, but I know the Riders, and it's huge that they have pole position, and they needed it, and they needed that win, but I'm not in full panic mode. I'm in slightly concerned mode, though.
Well, the only thing I would say is I think this. Yes, okay, the Riders' schedule is tougher than Calgary's, but they've proven they can beat Hamilton. They can. I mean, Montreal looks like they're rounding into form right now, but every time we think we know,
worries me.
But every time we think we know what the hell's going on in the East, it seems to go sideways. So, I mean, who the hell really knows what's going on out there at this point?
That's fair.
And yeah, I mean, they should win both games against Edmonton, though we all both have our concerns with that. So, I mean, yeah, I'm not saying that they're going to cruise to second place like that. They're going to need to get better, and I think they know that. But the difference is they've gotten sort of that one of their monkeys off their back now. Had they lost that game to Calgary, then you're in full-on spiral, and who knows where this goes, and maybe they only get saved by the fact that BC is bottoming out even harder than they were. But instead, it's okay, you've steadied the ship for a bit. There's still some work to do, but there is at least a course now. There's a direction, and it's not, oh crap, let's panic quite to the same degree.
Right. You always want to be able to control your own destiny, and that's
because as easier as Calgary's schedule is, if the Riders go, I believe, 3-1, they finish second.
Yes. Yes.
Which I'm not saying is going to happen, but I'm not going to say it's not going to happen either, given who they play.
As long as Calgary doesn't rip off a 3-0, though, I think 2-2 does it too, doesn't it?
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah, because let me just pull up the standings.
They have to beat them outright because Calgary still has the tiebreaker.
Right. So 2-2 would be 8-4. Calgary, or 8-6. Calgary, yeah. So Calgary's got to win out, and the Riders got to go 2-2.
Which you would think, hey, they should be able to beat Edmonton at least one of the 2 games, so they just need one in the other 2.
Right.
To get there, and realistically, they should get both of them against Edmonton.
And Calgary does have to win out. I said 1-4 heading into this stretch.
Yeah.
And I'm going to stand by that take, even after the win against Calgary. They just...
You just love being wrong.
They didn't impress me much in that game.
No, but they're not playing anyone that much better than them the rest of the way. They've played the best teams on their schedule probably already this year now.
They have, but I don't know. It's that same gut feeling I had when I called them to lose a couple to Calgary, and it's just I don't want to say they're falling apart, because teams that fall apart, you look at Edmonton, they're falling apart for good reasons. If you hear some of the locker room rumblings and things like that, they're falling apart for that. Calgary, Bo Levi Mitchell's jumped off a bit of a cliff. BC is just, they can't
our preseason take of Michael Riley maybe not being the answer there, or maybe part of the problem, or that he is part of the problem there, is starting to age a little well, I think. Right.
It's one like a good wine or a good scotch. It's one of the few things we've gotten right. So the Riders still, to me, throw up so many red flags right now.
Yeah. And that's the red flags are entirely fair, and that's definitely why they're not anywhere near Grey Cup favorites in my books. But I mean, other than Winnipeg, who is?
No, that's exactly it. It's going to be somebody that gets hot and catches It's going to be somebody that gets hot and catches Winnipeg napping here, because Winnipeg, as I was talking to my buddy Neely from Winnipeg, they don't play a meaningful game of football for 6 weeks.
Yeah, and I think a win like they got against Calgary is the kind of game that can turn our season around for a team.
And I hope it does. I very much hope I'm wrong, because I don't wish. I mean, I'm as big of a Winnipeg fan as there is. I mean, I have no qualms about hiding that, but like I've said, while sitting and drinking with my in-laws that are from Saskatchewan and sitting with my wife, that let's face it, if Winnipeg's not in the game, I'm probably cheering for Saskatchewan. I want to see them win. I want to see people in this province happy. I want to see my friends happy. I want to see them do well, right? I worry. Like, the thing that worries me is, to me, Saskatchewan finally started getting Cody some time because Cody's running again.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, they actually ran some bootlegs and got him moving around a bit to give the offensive line a bit of a help.
They did, and that offensive line needs all the help they can get.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that worries me when you start doing that is Cody's going to get hit. And we saw what happened when Cody got hit.
But we also see what happens when Cody doesn't run. He's just not a pocket passer.
No, you're absolutely right. I liked, and you and I were talking about it. I liked the bootlegs. Mm-hmm. I liked getting him out. I liked getting him space.
Or the touchdown when they roll out wide side, which seems to pretty much always work. And I don't know why teams just don't do it on every single play at the goal line, because it's going to be successful at some point.
Right. That's exactly it. Everybody's stacked in the middle. Go to the side where there's like two people, right?
Yeah.
And then like
release a tight end, and you're pretty much always open for a touchdown.
Exactly. And if you can do play action, which I think Cody has a pretty good play action motion, you're generally going to get one of those guys that you diving into the middle. So they did a lot of good things. Mm-hmm. Cody's got his weapons now. I think Calgary had to respect those, but again, the core of my worry is Bo Levi Mitchell looked like shit.
But I think the defense deserves some credit for that, because they threw a lot of different looks at him that they didn't see the last two games.
No, and they did. This seemed to me like the game that. This is the game that the game plan Craig Dickinson didn't want to break out, right? You and I talked about this a month ago, how, if this third game was meaningless, you were basically going to see everything be vanilla, and it was fairly vanilla for the first two games, and Craig Dickinson dug into the playbook, showed different looks, the kind of things that Craig was probably thinking, okay, I'll keep these in my back pocket for the playoffs, and he had to use them then. Again, I think this coaching staff is good enough that they're going to be able to come up with another scheme to beat Calgary in the playoffs, but you had a really bad game from Bo and you beat him by 3. And
they beat him by 3 because of
stupidity,
because of a bit of a brain fart at the end of the game. Like, let's be honest, that was really a 10-point win in reality.
I agree. That game was decided.
Because if you missed it or you didn't quite remember, or you fell asleep or something late in the game,
or you shut it off like I did, and then got a text from I'm putting the kids to bed, got a text from you. This is so dumb, and I'm going, oh, spicy. What did I miss?
So it was late in the game, about 2 minutes left. Riders get called on a time count violation, which of course is in that situation lost it down. So that made it third down, and they had to punt back to Calgary. Calgary comes right back and scores to make it the 3-point game, and that made the onside kick an important thing, which Duke Williams already paid off by catching the onside kick.
Worth the $150,000 for half a year.
Yeah. So, and that's just, we've all seen Cody's sort of issues with clock management and that sort of stuff before, but that's also a moment where the coaching staff needs to be more aware and call the timeout that they still had in their pocket to avoid that loss of down, and then probably none of that even happens. Well, so that's a little side thing there, but yeah.
I know, but I feel like that's part of the thing that's giving me the bad taste in my mouth. Like, how does nobody on that staff, and they're all on the sideline, right? Like, Jason Moss is not upstairs. Craig Dickinson is on the ground. You got Cody Fajardo. You've got the other quarterbacks. How does nobody notice to call the timeout there? It's little things like that and the discipline issues that continue to worry me a bit about this team, despite the fact that this win honestly, let's face it, this take is probably going to be terrible, and I feel like the Riders going to rip off a 3-1 because
John with a bad take. Wow, no, I never would have suspected such a thing.
Happens.
Never.
And I will lean into my bad case. Just ask about my Johnny Manziel take that was one of the first 3 episodes of this podcast. But there's enough there that little things like that shouldn't happen.
Yeah. The only thing I would say is I think other than Winnipeg, every other team in the league right now has some kind of really big red flag that you would say. There are reasons why every team in the league, other than Ottawa and Edmonton at this point, you could say and maybe even BC, could win the Grey Cup.
Yes.
And there are a bunch of reasons why basically every other team besides Winnipeg, you could say, won't win the Grey Cup. Winnipeg, the only reason you can say they won't win the Grey Cup is because they stubbed their toe at the wrong time.
Right. I mean, yeah, Winnipeg will need to shoot themselves in the foot. I would say it would be kicking, but then they went out and got our boy, right? Mm-hmm. Who again, still waiting for that damn jersey number, Winnipeg. I need to buy a jersey. I've wanted one of those Royal Bulls for a while.
And on the other side of the coin, because we're here to give credit where it's due as well, like we do on this podcast.
Yes.
You could argue the Riders won that game because of Craig Dickinson and the coaching staff as well, when there was conversation on the broadcast and a little bit online about the 3rd and goal situation from the 3.
Yep.
Late when that game, I believe it was tied at the time, or it was 3-point Rider lead or whatever. It was a 3-point Rider lead at the time, right? And Glenn Cedar is going about, I don't know, should they go for it? Though he was praising Calgary for getting the stop and kicking the field goal. And before the cameras had even gone back to the field, before the cameras had even acknowledged anything that the offense is going back out there, I tweeted, I was like, go for it.
Yes.
It was 100% the only answer in that spot was to go for it. I don't care what anyone else says. It was the right call. Even had they not converted the touchdown on that play, which I believe is the one where they rolled to the wide side and got the touchdown.
That's the one. Yep.
Even if they didn't, it would still remain the right call because Calgary hadn't done anything on offense in 2.5 quarters at that time. And you would have had you have them in the 3-yard line. They would have had to go 107 yards to score a touchdown. So if they do, I guess tip of the cap to you. But they got rewarded for being aggressive and playing to win rather than playing not to lose. And sort of the brain fart at the end of the game aside, that was the moment that won them the football game. So the coaching staff deserves credit for that decision as well.
Yeah, they almost canceled out their, to use the old-timey 50s term, they almost canceled out their boner at the end of the game. I just finally had a chance to use it. You're right. And you and I are huge advocates for going for it more. Mm-hmm. Just go for it because, again, like you said, the worst thing that happens to you there is Calgary has to go 107 yards for a touchdown. So yeah. I love that decision. It was a gutsy decision. It was a great play call rolling out Cody to the right. And you're right. I will give them lots of credit because that's the kind of thing. You need touchdowns to win football games. You're not going to win football games scoring field goals. And we've said that before, and everybody that watches football knows that is the truth, right? You need a touchdown, even just to make your opponent bleed their own blood, to use the famous line from Dodgeball a little. So I love that decision. I love the aggressiveness. And I love the aggressiveness. And it was shitty that it didn't work out the last time they played Calgary. But I love the aggressiveness that Jason Moss started to show. I know a lot of football traditionalists are robble. Do the math. If you go for it, basically the math says you should always go for it past about your 45-yard line, right? So I like that. I like that a lot. I like the execution of the play. There are a lot of good things with this Rider team. I am simply basing my soon-to-be terrible take off of nothing more than a gut feeling and just this overwhelming sense of doom that those 2 straight losses to Calgary gave and built this football team.
Yeah, and I mean those feelings I don't think are wrong. There's certainly still flaws with the team, and the final 4 games here are going to be sort of the litmus test here. We are going to learn a lot about the team over the last little bit here still, thanks to the shortened season. It'll be, okay, is there, are there true really big problematic problems with this team based on what we saw against the Calgary team, or are they just not a team that matches up well against Calgary, and maybe they roll over the other teams like they have other than Calgary and Winnipeg? Right. And the only downside for the Riders, if that ends up being the fact, is they have to go through Calgary and Winnipeg to get to the Grey Cup.
Right, you're not wrong there, and that's a great point, Joel. That you've got 2 losses against Winnipeg, 2 losses against Calgary. You know, your two biggest rivals. Like, there's not. You're right. They are, and I'd kind of forgotten that puts them 6-0 against everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And as you said, maybe they just. I feel like Calgary's just a bad matchup for that team.
Like, I think so too, because like I like. In none of the games, in any of these 3 games, did I walk away from that game being thoroughly impressed with the Calgary Stampeders?
No. It was weird, grindy. Who makes the least mistakes win kind of football? Like, good matchups for both teams and both players. A few mistakes out of everybody.
Yeah, like overall the 3 games, it felt like Calgary was a team that started strong but couldn't sustain it. Well, Saskatchewan was kind of slow, and out of the 2 or 3 times, just couldn't get that extra push over the hump when they needed it.
Well, and that's it. I still feel that even if things get a little wacky here and Saskatchewan ends up as a 3 seed, I still feel like they beat Calgary in the playoffs.
Yeah.
I don't know what the hell happens.
Yeah, I mean, in a 1-game playoff, anything can happen. And, you know, I would put their odds probably at least 45-50% going into McMahon, which is something you didn't used to say, but I think that's just fact this year. I don't think, no matter whether the West semifinal is in Regina or it's in Calgary, it's basically going to be a toss-up.
Yes, I would absolutely. I'd give a slight edge to Saskatchewan, depending on weather and all that in Regina.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that worries me though is you go get the deep threats, Cody's got to pass the ball more. You're a little worried about him running. You haven't really established a run with Powell really, really well this year, and then you got to play playoff football. That's the only slight worry I have, but you could make the same argument against Calgary. Again, the only team that it's funny. Winnipeg's been so good this year that you forget that teams generally have flaws in that everybody's got flaws in aspects of their game, because like Winnipeg has just been dummying teams, and I am here for it.
Yeah, I mean, Winnipeg's flaw has been their kicking game, and once Sergio's in there, they'll be fine.
Exactly, and even as Kuna Matata got in there and was just fine. I kind of wanted him to shit the bed to make sure Sergio got in the next game, but I can't have all my wishes come true.
No, absolutely not. Some Ottawa fans may have had their wishes come true now.
I knew as soon as that left my mouth. I'm like, he's going to transition and use that. It was almost like, see, we're at the point now.
Yeah.
We're like a volleyball setter, and your transitions are the spike.
Mm-hmm. Big news today on a Monday, as we record on Mondays now here on the 3 Down Greencast. Marcel Desjardins, unsurprisingly, maybe the timing is maybe a little surprising. He's out as the Redblacks GM, and quite spicy out the door as well.
Yes! As a guy that has left his last few jobs and making sure everybody knows why I left, I am a fan of Marcel Desjardins looking at the Redblacks and going, yeah, I'll pack my shit, but you guys made a mistake. Like, I love the confidence of that man. Like, I would hire him in my front office in a heartbeat just for that line. You're getting the pack your shit talk, and you basically tell him, you're making a mistake, I'll see you later, and then comes out in an interview and says, there's a bunch of shit you guys don't know that's happening behind the scenes. All of this from a man who had a regular season record of 46-71-2. Like,
yeah. And specifically the last 2 played seasons have been particularly bad.
Well, and that's exactly it. He weaponized his cap room to make the team very good very quickly, right? Mm-hmm. And I get it this year. You lose an all-star offensive lineman. You lose Brad Sinopoli, a leader and an all-star, right before the season starts. But 2 men do not make a football team, right? So, as a big Paul LaPolice guy, it sucks that they're struggling, because I want to see good things happen for Lapo. But on the same note, like, if he doesn't win the Grey Cup, this move happens 3 years ago.
It probably happened sooner, because I mean they never really like topped out as like elite team, if I remember correctly. Like the year they won the Grey Cup, they were below 500. They've always kind of hovered around that mark, right?
Right. The other year they made the Grey Cup, they had 12 wins, which
yes.
Again was his ability that he took an expansion team that had cap space and went out and like I said, weaponized it, got all these players, signed everybody because he wasn't in cap hell. And they just went on one of those fluky, stupid runs you see sometimes in the CFL when you actually won the Grey Cup. You played a Calgary Stampeders team that was so talented through the air on one of the shittiest weather nights outdoors. If that game is played indoors, if that game's played at BC Place or the Sky Dome, or the Big O, I think Calgary wins that game like in a landslide. But you got lucky, you got outdoors, so that's the only thing that he could hang his hat on, was a fluky team that ran to the Grey Cup, and this probably would have happened 2 years ago. And it never seemed like he was well-liked. He seems like the Joe Mack of the Ottawa Redblacks. If you ask any Bomber fan about Joe Mack, they'll tell you how terrible he was, or I guess even Danny Barrett, to a degree, here in Saskatchewan, although I don't think he did a terrible job. That's a spicy take for you. So, yeah. Not a surprise that he's been let go. But
I think we all knew it was coming at one point. I will say this, in the game of football, coaches do have a lot of input in who their players are.
Right.
So I don't think Paul LaPolice is innocent in this completely.
No.
From sort of rumblings, there is stuff going on behind the scenes there in a lot of different ways, and I'm not saying that Marcel deserved to keep his job for what happened. I mean, football is a results-based business, and this year and in 2019, the results have not been good for the Ottawa Redblacks, and I don't blame Marcel Desjardins for saying what he said. Of course, that's what he's going to think, is that they made a mistake, but ultimately, this is football, and this is what happens. We've seen general managers and coaches fired for less.
Right.
So it was a move that unfortunately had to be made, and I will say this about Paul LaPolice now. They want to bring in a guy that's going to keep him on. I don't like when teams do that, but nonetheless, nope. I also believe in coaches getting more than 1 year to try and do their thing. So, but now the pressure is going to squarely be on him, because it's going to be, okay, this has to work now, because that next GM has no loyalty to you.
No, absolutely right. Now, the comical thing was, how quick on your timeline were the Chris Jones to Ottawa tweets happening after this was announced?
I don't know. I didn't watch that closely today.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I had a chance. It was right when Max was waking up from surgery, basically, when this happened. And every CFL fan out there was like, hey. And I even saw, I think it was Fonzie Van Dam, one of our loyal listeners, and an all-around good guy, tweeting out that he used Chris Jones, but in the Chris and the Jones, he used dollar signs. And I that was a subtle touch, and I liked it. I liked it a lot. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see what Ottawa does, especially with the fact that they are basically telling somebody to play nice with Paul LaPolice. And I'm with you, Joel. I think any coach needs 2 to 3 years to really fully install stuff. I think the Nick Arbuckle thing kind of screwed them over, right? Who knows, if they were able to open up the purse strings to keep him. Matt Nichols, as he so often is, was injured and just not very good. So it'll be very interesting in Ottawa to see who they bring in to replace Desjardins.
Yeah, and I think, it's probably, I would say at this point, looking like, I would say maybe the only job that opens this year, barring something, unless someone leaves for the NFL or something. I think we talked about this before too, where it seemed like a year where everything should be fairly stable in the CFL. I don't see any, okay, Hamilton hasn't quite reached expectations, but they could still win the Grey Cup, and ultimately I don't see a knee-jerk reaction there.
No, right.
None, Rick Campbell's going to get at least another year in BC, I would imagine.
Right, because they haven't
now
Edmonton's bad, but not atrocious, right?
Yeah, Edmonton's the only sort of wild card on the board here where something may happen once the season is over.
If the board believes in science, something should happen before the season's over.
Hey, Jacques Cartier. Show's over.
Shop Plato's Closet tax-free August 2nd through 4th for back-to-school styles. We sell the trendy, gently used styles you need to make a difference in the world and in your wallet for back-to-school shopping. Save up to 70% off regular retail prices by choosing recycled styles. Save even more when you shop tax-free this weekend. Make a change that others can respect and repeat. Shop Plato's Closet in North Charleston and West Ashley this year for your back-to-school looks. Plato's Closet, located in West Ashley on Sam Rittenberg Boulevard and North Charleston on Rivers Avenue.